to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 44. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
but that's not going to happen. So instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
But this summer, we've been taking a little bit of a break from having guests on regularly to do a travel tips series. This is our final one of the summer.
Oh my gosh, summer is over, Cheryl.
Yeah, we were just talking about how you're like going back to school, and I'm still
Yeah.
trying to figure out if you're a teacher or a student with
Yeah.
that, you know. But
Well, and actually, the day that this episode comes out is Labor Day, the day before school starts.
Oh my goodness.
Summer is truly
summer's over, guys.
How did that happen?
Time went on in a linear pattern. Not pattern. What's the word? Length. Not length. Tempo.
A linear fashion?
Yes. Sure. Let's
know
say
what you're
that.
thinking.
I don't know what words I'm coming up with right now, but apparently my brain is mush because it's summer. Summer doesn't affect me though anymore. Like my job is the same, but you know, that's okay. So
better.
here we are at our final travel tips episode of the summer.
Yes.
And
And
today,
Cheryl, what do we get to talk about on this episode?
food.
Oh, but you don't like food, Cheryl.
Oh, no, I don't, because I love food. I love food so much. Earlier tonight, I was adding in some garlic to the dinner I was cooking, and my fiance said to me, "You just looked at the garlic the way you look at me." And I said, "Yes, because I love you as much as I love garlic." And he said, "I love you too." So I love food a lot.
That was supposed to be a compliment, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes, he has reached that level.
He has reached the garlic level. Oh, boy.
I love food, and I travel. And listeners might remember from episode 2, I said that I travel to eat, and it's kind of a joke and kind of not, because
Yeah.
I get so excited to eat when I travel. So I'm excited to talk about food, and I'm already hungry, and we haven't even really started the episode yet, and I already had dinner. So here we are.
So, Cheryl, what is it about eating while you travel that you enjoy? Let's ignore eating when you're not traveling.
Okay.
What
It's
do you
hard to do.
enjoy about eating while you travel?
When I think about enjoying a different culture, like food is such an important piece of that. Because of the level that I enjoy food, I think about like what aspects of a different place I want to enjoy. And it's like, well, food is such an essential piece of that, of like, what is life like for these people? What is creativity like? And all the, I don't know, just whatever else. I mean, you get excited about science when you travel,
do.
and you go and you find your science things. Like, that's how I feel about food when I travel. And so,
Wow.
yeah. And then on top of that, when you're traveling, maybe you're extra tired. Maybe you like need a little bit more of a break sometimes, or maybe you're extra excited or whatever's going on. And like all of those things, and happiness and sadness and tiredness, I enjoy food. And so it's just like, I don't know, even more enjoyable for that too. And then I
Wow.
love the ambiance of places where people eat, restaurants, cafes, bars, coffee shops, like anything like that. I love that atmosphere, and so I love enjoying that atmosphere in other cultures as well, and watching some of my favorite people watching, and just seeing like what type of atmosphere is created in these different places. And so yeah.
We have very different food travel experiences, Cheryl.
So tell me about yours.
So I'm not a foodie like you are. I do enjoy eating some food, but I don't think that I enjoy all the nuances that a true foodie enjoys. And while I do agree that I think food can be a very interesting way to understand elements of a different culture, whether that is internationally or domestically, because there's lots of different styles of food, even just within the United States. And so that's something that you can do. You don't have to go to another country to be able to experience a different kind of food.
Which is so cool.
However, as you were describing being tired and exhausted and hungry, and then you just can't wait to eat and experience something new, to me, eating while traveling when I'm tired and exhausted is one more thing that I have to do as opposed to something that I look forward to do, because I now either need to find a place and pick a place and then make a decision on what I'm going to eat, and then I have to wait for it to arrive and all of those pieces, and then I have to figure out like all of any language barriers that may exist or tipping culture or whatever. Like, it's one more piece that requires effort and energy on my part. And there are times where it's really, really good and worth it. But a lot of times I'm like, I don't really care what I'm eating, especially after like a long day of walking, which I love to do, but I can be pretty tired by the end. And so, especially I think mostly with like dinner, I just want something to eat so that I can move on, as opposed to sit and savor and enjoy and all of those things. That's just generally not the way I feel at the end of a day of travel.
That makes sense. I could see that being how maybe I might feel about like navigating a bus system on a when I'm really tired and jet lagged and everything, and being like, I guess I have to do this right now, but yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that Lord of the Rings bread, what is it? Starts with like an L. It's like that little thing that you take up.
Lambus bread.
Yeah. Do you wish that existed when you traveled or just in life?
I mean, it's not that I like to eat bland food. But I also don't mind, like, just during a regular work week, I will often strive to have one kind of meal that I make for lunch, and I eat it all week for lunch. And, like, I don't get bored of it. Like, that doesn't bother me. As a matter of fact, I prefer that because then it's less times I have to cook something. And it feels more efficient to me than having to make something every day and there's something different and whatever. But I also I don't want to eat the same thing for every meal all the time, every day.
Okay.
So, I mean, I feel like my equivalent of the lambus bread is the
Pizza?
No.
What if you could just have a pizza delivery at the end of your long travel day and someone just showed up and gave you pizza?
Yeah, but I wouldn't want pizza every day.
Okay.
Because pizza is a type of food that, like, it's greasy and heavy and it tastes really good, but I couldn't do, like, I think that's the other piece for me in travel, and it really stood out with the Ireland trip for me because it was 2 weeks and most of the time we ate out because we're going from city to city to city. We would do breakfast usually at the Airbnb, but everywhere the other meals we would usually eat out. I just get sick of eating out.
Really?
Yeah. Just I don't need something super fancy. Not that I particularly want to cook myself, but there's just the food, there's more food and it's heavier and you're making choices. And I guess I feel this obligation when I'm traveling and I'm eating out. Well, I have to try something different. I have to try something new. It's like, well, all this pressure. I just need food.
Yeah, that's interesting. My pressure is the opposite.
You
where
have too many things to choose from.
Yes, I want to try all of the things everywhere all of the time. And I am only one person who has a limited number of calories that she probably should be eating during a day. Am I thinking about that on a trip?
Don't
No.
count on vacation.
That
right?
is true. That's very true. If you're walking like 10 miles a day, then that's probably true, actually. And so I want to try everything. And so my pressure is like, how can I get all of the variety and all of the things like into such a limited number of meals and days? And it's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you decide then? If you want to try all of the things, how do you not get overwhelmed with a decision, and how do you decide what you're going to have?
Well, a lot of times I do get overwhelmed, but then how I end up deciding is a couple different things. One of my favorite things to do, not just traveling, in life, I love asking servers their opinions. I just love it because they know, you know what I mean? Like, they work there, they know the food. And so oftentimes, even just locally, if I'm trying to decide between a couple dishes, I'll just ask the server, like, hey, what do you recommend? And then they'll give me like a pretty honest opinion about it, and it's awesome. And I've tried some fun things because of that. And so when I'm traveling, I'll even just like play that tourist card if I'm ordering at a restaurant and say, like, I really want to try authentic Catalonian cuisine. What is that? Like, what on your menu is that? Or I'll ask them, like, how should I order? You know, what's the right size of order for one person or two people or whatever? And so I'll just try to actually lean into the, like, I'm new here card. And just, you know, it's like, because I think, and a lot of people are excited to kind of give you that experience and introduce you to things. And I think it's kind of one of those times when I like to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you tell me? I will ask the internet before I even go on the trip, like, what are must-have foods when I'm in this location, just to see what people are listing and everything. I think another fun thing about asking a server or just asking a local is a lot of people are just really proud of their local food. And it's so fun to have the experience of them introducing that to you and saying, like, this is the best one, or this is from our region, or, you know, getting to learn about the history of it or different things like that can be really fun. And so I like doing that. My new favorite way for the last couple of years has been a food tour. And I like to do that
That's right.
early.
Yeah.
Because then they might point out 10 other restaurants that you should check out that they, as a local, really enjoy. But they're not going to take you to on the food tour, or maybe they introduce you to something and you love it so much that you want to have it again, you know, or something like that. And so, but they'll also teach you about ordering, or just like what's kind of restaurant culture there, things like that, which can be really good because I don't want to be rude. I want to be respectful and kind of fit into the environment that I'm in. And so it's fun to learn how locals do whatever, you know, even beyond tipping, you know, what does ordering look like in this space? Do you seat yourself? Will they ever give you the check, or do you have to ask for it?
Like most of the time you have to ask for it.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of pieces of that are kind of good to start learning and everything so that you can go and explore. I know other people, I mean, just use the internet even when they're in the city. I've done that just a tiny bit just to see, like, similar to here, if you're trying to pick a restaurant, you might just look at their reviews. It
Like
has
Yelp reviews or something.
Yeah, totally. So that can work just with how prominent the internet is everywhere, you know. That can be good. Yeah, let's see. Those are kind of the major ones that I do. And then if I'm traveling with someone else, I share plates together, and then you get to try more than one thing. Or maybe you order the appetizer and then also order the entree so you can try more than one thing, or eat a small meal so that you can have a little more later. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what is your food strategy then, as far as meals and eating out, or making your own stuff, or, you know, snacks, or any of those things? How do you plan out a trip around food?
So there's a couple aspects to this. One is that I will look up ahead of time if there are specific restaurants that I really want to make sure I go to, or specific neighborhoods that are known for good food even. And as I've talked about before a little bit, I will star those on Google Maps. And then I will try to figure out how I can get myself to those locations around lunchtime or dinner time.
So when you say restaurants that you have to go to, where are you going? Are you just doing random Google searches? Do you have specific food review websites that you go to? How are you getting this information?
It's a lot of Google searches, but I'll just do a lot of them to try to find those commonalities between like who's, what's really recommended across the board. I've done this a couple times. There's a Facebook page. It's one of the BuzzFeed ones. It's called Bring Me. And they just feature cool things all over the world. But oftentimes those cool things are cool restaurants. Now those can be more of like, sometimes they're more of a gimmick or whatever. But sometimes like I was planning a trip to LA, New York, and Boston. And so I scrolled through so much of that page. And that's how I found that cookie dough restaurant. I don't know, restaurant's a generous word, but cookie dough shop. Where you order like ice cream that I told you about a long time ago, and when I was to your hearers, I found that because of the Bring Me page, and I found a couple other things, and because I was going to these really popular cities, I could do that. Facebook events, even you can look and see what's going on in a region, and oftentimes there are things around restaurants, so that can be fun. And so, yeah, I think I'll just. Or just if there's some like famous whatever, I'll try to find where that originate or things like that. And so I try to find those things so that when it comes to planning, as far as where I want to eat, I'll do that. Another form of planning is that I'm one of those people that when I get hungry, I get shaky.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden I get weak and shaky and it's bad news. And so with that, I definitely travel with snacks because as much as it's fun to like fill up on all these delicious foods, there's also times where it's like there isn't time to eat. There's not a good option for eating, whatever. Those things happen. And so I keep bars on me, whether it's these like homemade protein balls that I make or store-bought bars or different things like that. I just try to keep those around. And then I really like to try to book accommodations that are going to include some form of breakfast. So whether it's like, depending on where you're going, that can be any hotel that could include good breakfast, depending on like what country you're visiting. Or like, I don't know, if I'm going to an Airbnb, then I could just buy the things to make breakfast, the next morning. In life, I eat
what I like to do for breakfast?
What?
If I'm at an Airbnb, cereal.
There you go.
One, I love cereal in the first place.
Okay.
But two, that is something that there are different cereals as you travel around, especially to different countries.
Ryan, you're exploring food. I'm so proud of you.
I told you that there are certain things that I really like. Most food, I don't really care. But cereal, I really, really like.
That's so cool. Wow. That's really cool. I love that. I can't remember how many years it's been since I've had cereal. Actually, no. Maybe I was sick.
Me so sad.
I think I was sick a couple months ago and ate some rice checks.
I always have cereal on hand. And that is my go-to dinner, in fact.
Really?
If I'm super tired, like it's September, right? So I'm going to be very tired
maxed
all month
out
long. Yeah, and so I'm going to come home, and if I haven't already made food over the weekend, which is what I usually try and do, but sometimes weekends go such that it doesn't happen, and if it's like 8 o'clock by the time I'm getting home, I'm not spending a half an hour making food. I'm taking some granola, pouring it in a bowl, pouring milk in it, and that is dinner.
So I told you this idea off air. This is not related to travel, but I need to share this because I feel like those of us who know teachers, maybe we should all like band together to do this. So a couple months ago, my sister had a baby and I set up one of those.
Well, your sister had twins.
My sister had, Oh, you're right. I said a baby. I'm
You
sorry,
did.
Katie. Katie, I'm very sorry.
No.
I know that
There's
you
a
have
big
2
difference.
sons. It's a phrase. Katie, I know that you have 2 kids. Trust me. I do know this. She's a listener. I have to make sure I get that
Yep.
in.
Yep.
So my sister had babies, and I set up one of those care websites. There's a million of them for people to sign up to bring her meals.
Yeah.
And what I think teachers should do is for the month of September, they should make one of those and their friends can bring them meals, because those websites are more than just for people who just had babies. It's for people who maybe are going through some form of like hospital treatments or some form of sickness. It can be all sorts of things in life, elderly people, and teachers are just maxed out in September. And so I feel like if we came alongside you, and now that I'm saying this, I want to provide meals for you in September, and I might do that a time or two because I love cooking. So anyway, everyone who's listening and knows a teacher, let's guys, it's the month of September. Let's bring them some meals. They're having a busy month. Anyway, cereal I now have on hand in my home because I'm about to become a stepmom and there's a 5-year-old in my life, which means now I have cereal around and I'm like, I just have cereal on hand now. That's an odd thing for me because I eat eggs for breakfast or different. Like I like cook a breakfast every day. And
See,
so
that takes time. That's time that I could be asleep.
for me, yeah, I also, just the way I eat these days, I eat a big breakfast and that's what gives me energy through the day. And if I don't, I get hungry so early in the day. And so when I'm traveling, I'm probably going to be more active even than at home.
Right.
So that's one of those things where I want to practice a similar lifestyle to when I'm at home. There's so many ways that we change our lifestyle when we're on the road and traveling and abroad that I think like thinking about that self-care is like, I really want to eat a big breakfast. And so oftentimes it's going to be, I'm going to stay at a hotel and they provide really good breakfast, you know, or if you're staying with a friend, maybe that's communicating with the friend, like, hey, like, do you normally cook breakfast? Because seeing, like, are they cooking breakfast already in their home and you can join in on that? Or, like, would you mind taking me to the store so I can buy some supplies to cook myself breakfast? You know, if you're not a breakfast person. Like, and so I really try to think about setting myself up for success in the morning with that, wherever I'm traveling, whenever I'm staying somewhere that's not my home.
Yeah.
And for me, also, that, like, hot breakfast makes a really big difference. I also bring a ton of protein in the form of various bars because I need to make sure I have my back and like get that protein in my body and everything. And so, so I do that. But then with lunch and dinner, I mean, a lot of places you're traveling, the way you and I travel, there's so many food options. So, I will often buy a little snack out somewhere, you know, or buy a couple extra items that are food related beyond meals because it's more opportunities to try things. And then it does kind of like, in my more normal life, I might just eat a snack mid-afternoon. And so it can be kind of fun to just go buy something that's, you know, like that. But I wish I could just eat at all of the places when I travel. So, yep.
So do you ever do, like, one thing that I really like to do when I travel, and this again is domestically and internationally, especially for lunch, I like to find a local grocery store and just grab something from there, something a little bit smaller, a little bit quicker, and a little bit cheaper. And it's especially fun, I find it, at least internationally, to go into a grocery store because grocery stores vary quite a bit when you go to other countries. Is that something that you ever do, or do you like to eat out?
Most of the time I do like to eat out a lot just because of that whole experience. I'm not above. I also love to save money when I travel though. And so I try not to spend a ton on lunch because maybe I'm going to spend more on dinner. I've only gone to a few grocery stores internationally. In the States, I love a grocery store. Let's just go into the deli or go into like their prepared items or just like buying meat and cheese and making my little roll-ups and calling it good, you know? And so I have gone to markets in other cities before, and that can be so fun because I love a market, and it's fun that they're so prominent in some other countries as like a common
Yeah.
way that people buy their produce and meats and things like that. I've only shopped at them a little bit. So just every once in a while, I've tried to buy some lunch items at them. But what I'm so excited for is on my honeymoon in a few months, which we'll talk about, as it gets closer and everything. But we're going to do an Airbnb so that we can shop at a market and actually like cook together with the items that we buy at a market. And I'm so excited about that because
Well, your fiance enjoys cooking also. So
Yes.
you guys like to cook together.
yes, we love cooking together. It's something we did on our second date. It's something we regularly do. Like it's a really important thing to both of us. It's not just eating out, but cooking, and so
Yeah.
the idea of getting to cook in another country, I am stoked about. So, yeah, that's really fun. Oh man. We got to talk about food restrictions. So Ryan, do you have any food restrictions?
Yes. Vegetables. I pretty much don't eat them. I restrict
you-
them from my diet.
Have you ever told someone that you're allergic?
No. I actually do eat vegetables in things. I just generally, one thing that I've heard from people before when they've traveled, depending on where it is that they travel, that I have never uttered except when I have quoted other people is, "Oh, I'm just craving some fresh veggies." Mm-hmm. Yeah, nope, I don't. Nope. Mm-mm.
Really?
No, I don't enjoy vegetables on their own. Well, I don't enjoy vegetables generally anytime, but I tolerate vegetables when they're in other things because I understand that they're good for me and I should probably eat them. But I just don't like the flavor. I don't like most things that are bitter in flavor. And so I've determined a lot of vegetables are bitter. Coffee is bitter. Alcohol is bitter. Like a lot of things that I don't like, it has a bitter flavor. The one exception that I cannot explain is chocolate because I love dark chocolate, which is the more bitter type of chocolate.
That's
But I
weird.
do love it. And I don't know what is
Weird.
different, but I do. Like if you give me a choice between a dark chocolate and a milk chocolate, I will pick the dark chocolate. And don't try and pretend like white chocolate is chocolate because it's not. So we're just not even going to go there. So it's funny. So anyway, all that to say, I don't remember what question you asked me.
I asked you about food restrictions, and you said that you restrict
Oh, and I said it was
vegetables from
restricted
your
from
diet.
vegetables.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
I like that.
Which was a
I like
joke,
that
but-
response. That's a pretty good one.
But no,
yeah.
I don't have. Thankfully I don't have any actual restrictions. I don't have any allergies that I know of. I don't have any dietary restrictions that make it more difficult for me than anybody else. So that's really an advantage for me is I don't have to think about those things.
Yeah, and so, but you are a more picky eater than me.
Hence
You're
the
not-
vegetables.
Yeah. So if you're visiting someone, staying with someone, whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like somebody's grandma who's made you this dish and you're not into it, do you have the ability to just suck it up and eat it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
'Cause-
I may not be able to eat all of it.
Because there are
Depending on what it
different
is.
types of picky eaters. You know
I
what I
am
mean?
less picky now than I used to be.
Okay.
Like when I was a kid.
Okay.
But I think that might also be partly why I don't enjoy food in the way that you do too. You enjoy all flavors,
Yeah.
right? In every possible combination. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm like, meh. I mean, there's food that like, yes, I will eat it and I can tolerate it, but I don't love it. The problem is the food that I really, really love is the food that's not really
Brownies.
good for you. Yeah, baked goods.
Popcorn.
You put me in a bakery and I will have one of everything, thank you very much. And then I'll have seconds. Like, I don't know why, but baked goods I love. And it's not even necessarily sweet because I really enjoy salty things like popcorn. But I just, baked goods are so good.
Huh. I mean, I agree. Yeah. Okay, so that's cool. So you can be the like respectful visitor who like downs the food that they give you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, again, up to a point. Like there's certain things where I may take a couple of bites and then I might not be able to. But well, that only happens every once in a while, and usually those are not the things that they're serving to you, like as you're a guest in someone's home. As I've mentioned before, I've done a lot of English camps. One of the things that sometimes they will do is they'll do these different competitions, and then they will pick foods that your team has to eat because they're foods that,
that's
for the
very
most part,
different.
people don't like.
That's very different. Yeah.
So that's, those ones, that's a different experience.
Yeah, totally fair. Yeah. So I have a numerous amount of food restrictions, which is a bummer considering I enjoy food so much, but also because I like to cook and because I enjoy food, I have also found my ways around it, and I still enjoy cooking.
You love the challenge too.
I do. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I've adjusted, so that's okay. My food restrictions are not allergies. It just causes various levels of discomfort, I would say, and some other symptoms. And so
I feel like discomfort is not a strong enough word.
I mean, I've never had to take a sick day for it. So we'll say if that puts some perspective on it. And so when I travel, first of all, I do cheat a lot. And so I'm not going to be the most helpful resource on traveling with a ton of food restrictions, because part of my answer is just to ignore that you have food restrictions, which if you have an allergy or if you're celiac or these different things, obviously that's not actually a good option. First of all, to everyone who can't have gluten, congratulations that you live in the time period that you live in, and that Americans' food restrictions are prominent enough that they're affecting the tourist industry in other countries, because in Italy they had gluten-free pasta on a lot of their menus. So I don't know how I feel about that. I feel pretty mixed about that, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of happy for the gluten-free people, and then also it's I'm sorry, Italy.
Well, but you've also shared, and I've heard this from other people before too, that there are enough differences in the way that food is prepared outside of the United States compared to inside the United States, that sometimes individuals, again, not so much with an allergy, but if there is a sensitivity or whatever, and gluten is the one that I've heard the most of, when people will eat foods that they typically wouldn't eat here in the States, but if they eat them in another country, sometimes they don't cause the same reaction.
Yep.
I think there could be quite a few reasons for that. Sometimes those sorts of sensitivities build up over time. So it could be if you've just not had it for a really long time and you have just a little bit of it, that it's not enough to build up and show a reaction, and you might have that same thing in the States. It also, sometimes they prepare food differently. And so if there's actual different chemical structure, that your body may react differently to it than it would be if it were here. So
Yeah.
Again, if you're allergic to something, you will still be allergic to that thing. That does not change.
Yeah. So I guess for me, I do have less symptoms in other countries. However, a lot of the foods I can't have, some of the things I can't have are artificial sweetener, artificial coloring, high fructose corn syrup, things like that, which Americans pump into a lot of food.
We definitely put high fructose corn syrup into a lot.
Yeah,
more stuff
and coloring things and different things like that. There's other things where just I can't have broccoli. So I'm assuming our broccoli is not dramatically different than that in another country. But it is interesting because I find that I have wheat products and they don't really affect me in the same way, as they do in the States. So with all of that, I would still warn people to be careful. And I think
Absolutely.
That's something, if you have some serious food restrictions, to learn those key language words, do your research. Maybe you do stay in an Airbnb and do some grocery shopping, and you cook some things yourself or bring some extra snacks or things like that. But something that's awesome is that I have also found that in some other countries, just their ingredients lists are shorter. And that's one thing in the States in general I look for as I'm buying food that's bit of a negative towards a food is if the ingredients list is super long. It's like, wow, they put a lot of stuff in here. And how are all those things going to affect me as someone with 80 food restrictions? And so if it's a short ingredients list, that's just kind of nice. And if there's people like with homemade whatever, it's more likely to have a short ingredients list than like packaged items and everything.
Sure.
And so that's exciting. But yeah. So as someone who doesn't like food,
Whoa.
I'm sorry, that was too strong. Is not obsessed with food.
There you go.
Tolerates food as a necessity in life and sometimes enjoys it. What is like? Are there times when you have seriously just loved the food as you've traveled?
Yeah.
And what are
for
those?
Sure. Yeah. There were a couple of times in my most recent trip to Ireland. Well, one, there are certain types of food that I really, really like. I mentioned baked goods, ice cream. I really like ice cream. So I've mentioned, I think, as I wish you were here before, Cacao, which is my favorite ice cream shop in the world, and it has amazing ice cream. But there was a place that we stopped for dinner in Portrush. Yeah, in Northern Ireland. And it was our one kind of splurge dinner. It was a little bit pricier restaurant. And I don't remember. I think did I have duck? Maybe? I don't remember what it was. See, this is where I'm not a foodie, right? Because I don't remember like all of the ins and outs of exactly what it was. But it was so good. And it was just, I could tell, like I couldn't tell you what was different about it. But it was really good, and I really enjoyed that particular meal. So yeah, there are definitely times where it's not that I don't enjoy eating. I just think it's very specific things. I don't just enjoy eating as a blanket statement, right? There are certain things when it's above and beyond, but I think for me, above and beyond is different than a lot of people. Because again, like for you, Cheryl, you love like all the subtle flavors, and you can eat something and then kind of figure out what was in it and how much of like the different, seasonings or whatever. I have no clue. Right? Like I do not know what it is. I just know, ooh, this tastes good, or this is fine.
Cool. I'm so happy that you enjoy food while traveling, and I'm excited that you enjoy the nuances of cereals while you travel.
I don't know
That's
that I enjoy the
awesome.
nuances of cereal. And just let me clarify, I did realize as I was thinking about this, when I say cereal, I don't mean like sugar cereal. So
Okay.
I'm not thinking like Lucky Charms or Fruit Loops or Frosted Flakes or that sort of thing. I typically, because we weren't really allowed to have sugar cereals growing up, except for like special occasions. So they're too sweet for me. So I typically, I like granolas and more that type of cereal where it's like crunchy and maybe has some nuts in it and stuff like that. So just as
Cool.
a clarification.
Awesome. In conclusion, eat food
while you travel.
while you travel. Yeah. I would say for me, I try to be so adventurous with food too. If someone's like, this is super good, I'm like, let me at it. You know what I mean? And so it's easier maybe if you're with other people, because then you could not order the item yourself and just try a bite of it and then decide if you want more of it or not. I think it can be harder just to like straight up order an item. But I would say a big thing is like, well, it depends on what word is going to be really like the best word in another language when asking for it. But like in Spain, I would ask like what was typical, which is typical. So like what's the most typical blank food, whatever city I'm in, like what is typical, I want to know like what is of this region, what do the locals eat, what's like the special dishes here. And it's fun just to ask those questions. So I would just say, just like everything else with travel, like it can be really fun to ask questions and learn. And you learn a lot of history when you learn about food too, which is really cool. For example, in Florence, Italy, they don't put salt in their bread. Okay. So their bread isn't that good because it's so bland. They don't put salt in their bread because a long, long, long time ago they were at war with Pisa, and Pisa is on the coast and controlled who got salt. And so Florence did not get salt from them, so they stopped making their bread with salt. And still to this day, that's the recipe. So, like, it's interesting that it's like, I don't normally remember all of the things of history, but, like, I remember a history fact because I learned this thing about bread, and that was interesting to me. And so it's fun. It's so fun.
That mattered for you.
Yeah, it's so fun how related history and food are. And there's just so many aspects of food in a culture and why they eat the things they eat and how they eat it and all these things. And so it can be really fun to learn those things. So have fun and tell us when you eat good foods. Well,
Yeah.
Because I'm excited.
And I may not be quite as excited as Cheryl, but if it's really good, yeah, I'm game.
Sweet.
All right. So let's move to the last segment called Wish You Were Here. During this segment, each of the two of us, Cheryl and I, are going to share a travel attraction. Think of it kind of like a little snapshot or a postcard of this one little thing that we've done from our travels that we would say, hey, we wish you were here. Cheryl, what do you have for this week?
So last week I shared about the Getty Center, which is an art museum in Los Angeles. This week I'm going to share about the Getty Villa, which is another museum in Los Angeles. Same Getty, different location. So same guy.
Okay.
Mr.
So
Getty.
what makes it different?
So I would say go to the Getty Center because it's a fun, like, classic LA museum. Go to the Getty Villa because you'll feel like you're traveling somewhere not exotic. You'll feel like you're traveling somewhere else, which is very cool. So Paul Getty, who's the Getty guy, got super interested in this villa that was in what is now Italy. The villa at Paperi.
What do you mean, what is now Italy?
It's like
How
a
old is
villa
this Getty
from
guy?
history. Well, he's not old, but there was like this villa from history that there's like drawings of, and like they've like discovered. Well, they discovered it in 1750, but it was really old.
Okay.
And so it was like during Roman times. And
All right.
so he got super into it and found, like, I guess there's like the plans of it and stuff like that. And so he recreated it in Malibu in Los Angeles
Whoa.
at the Getty Villa. And so it's fun because you feel like you're in Italy. So, or Greece. It's like ancient Greece, Rome, and, you know, that whole feel to it, definitely. And there is art from ancient Greece and Rome as well there, and sculptures and all
really?
these things. And so, and there's like this really big, like, gorgeous, very long, skinny, like, fountain area. There's just like the landscaping is gorgeous. The
Is it a
view
fountain
is
or
of
is
the
it
ocean.
a pool or a pond?
Actually, it might be a pool. Apparently, I mashed up those words because last week I mashed up fountain and I guess pool. It's not a pond. A pond is like a natural thing. It's a
Yeah.
pool that you don't swim in, I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, you could swim, but they might throw you out. So, yeah, I would say like Malibu is just gorgeous. So, like, to get there, you drive up the coast, which is really fun. And it's just, I mean, there's a reason that people buy their fancy homes there because Malibu is gorgeous. And then going to the Getty Villa is very cool, and it's pretty big, and there's a view of the ocean, and it's just like a very relaxing place to visit. And I would say that to me, a good museum includes enjoying the building itself, because I love buildings a lot. And so being in a cool building or in a cool space with, you know, even like a cool outdoor area for me is a big draw of going to a museum. And so this is definitely one that, like, I mean, this building is like very specific for a reason, and so it's fun to enjoy that. So I'd say the building is kind of like a piece of the museum. It is.
That's cool.
Yeah, so check out both Gettys in LA. You know, maybe do them back to back if you're feeling adventurous.
How far away from each other are they?
Let me do directions for you really quick. I think the Getty Villa also, you do need to get tickets online in advance, and I think it's free. Is it free? Because I think they're a nonprofit somehow. But you have to book it in advance. And so I would say don't just like drive up, like look it up online and everything. You can get from one to another in 18 minutes.
If there's no
So-
traffic.
If there's no traffic. Yeah. Right now at 10 o'clock at night, you can get there in 18 minutes. So, yeah. Check out the Gettys. The Getty Villa.
Cool.
How about you, Ryan?
So I'm going to go back to Ireland because there were so many things in Ireland. And I'm going to talk about my favorite tour of the entire trip while we were there. And it was an unexpected, wonderful experience. So I think I mentioned in one of the episodes that we ended up staying in a town called Waterford instead of staying in Kenmare because there was a, Bob
Yes.
Dylan concert or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we just ended up staying in Waterford, and I had been looking online at, okay, what is there to do in Waterford? And I was like, oh, I feel like I've heard of Waterford before. It's because Waterford Crystal is made there.
Oh, that's why I've heard of Waterford before.
Exactly. So there's Waterford Crystal. So they do a factory tour. And I was like, that looks kind of interesting. Let's do the Waterford factory tour. And, you know, me and Serena and Tom, the two people I went with, we were like, yeah, why not? We'll do it. So we booked the tour. We bought tickets online. We showed up in the morning to go to this tour. And it's us and mostly people who were reasonably older than us doing this tour. And it was amazing. And Cheryl,
Really?
you would love it.
Really?
Because crystal is a type of glass, Cheryl. They do glass blowing.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, crystal is a type of glass. So I
That's a good
learned,
point.
that because I asked the guys, like, what is the difference between glass and crystal? And there's a particular compound with lead. And I don't remember what lead is mixed with. I don't remember what it was, but a lead something. Lead oxide. I don't think that was it. But, and if it's above a certain percentage, then it's considered crystal because that affects the way that the light shines through it and some of that sort of stuff. So crystal is a specific type of glass. And so you walk through and they walk you through the entire process of how they make all of their crystal pieces. And so the beginning part, they talk about some of the tools that they use, and then you go and there's the hot shop and they're blowing glass right there in front of you. And you're watching a couple of these guys and they're doing it and they're going back and forth and they're swinging the whatever the thing is around and blowing in it and making this stuff. And they're describing all this stuff to you and you get to watch it. And then you move to the next room, and the next room is where they kind of, I don't think sand is the right word, but they're kind of like sanding it down. They've got these spinning wheels to kind of get it, kind of get the rough edges off, and you watch them do all of those sorts of
Wow.
things. And then you move into the next room and the next room, and it was so interesting. And you're right there. You get to see most of what's going on. And one of the coolest things was when we went into the cutting room where they're doing the cutting, and there were, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 guys in there that they were doing the cutting, and you are right there on the other side of the machine with them. Like, it's just right there. And you're
Wow.
watching them do these freehand cuts. Like, it's been marked on the glass, but they're doing them freehand. Those wheels are spinning. The water is spraying everywhere. And like one of the guys, actually, he stopped partway through it, and then he took the piece that he was cutting and he handed it to Serena and then started talking to her about it and all this stuff.
Oh, my
It
goodness.
was so cool. It was an incredible tour. I would highly recommend it. If you're in
Wow.
Ireland and you end up down near Waterford, it is definitely worth the time to go ahead and do the tour. Serena ended up buying it was a vase that he was cutting. So it wasn't that exact vase that he was cutting, but it was that design that they had there. And so it was cheap enough that she felt like it was reasonable since she saw it being made. That was cool.
That's
I
so
didn't get
cool.
anything because what am I going to do with a piece of crystal? But
Yeah.
there's some really cool stuff. Yes, of course, there's, their shop where you can buy stuff, but you don't have to buy stuff. And just the whole process of how they make it is so fascinating. The tour was so well done. I think it was about an hour long. And we get to the end and I turn and I was like, wait, has it been an hour that whole time?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's a good review right there.
Exactly. And actually, I felt so good about how good the tour was that I wrote a review up on Google because I thought it was so good, and I was super
You took
impressed.
the time to do that.
Yeah. And Serena and Tom both agreed as well. Like that was the unexpected surprise of something that was way better than we expected it to be. So, House of Waterford Crystal Factory Tour in Waterford, Ireland.
Nice. That's awesome. So fun.
So fun. But sadly, we are out of time, Cheryl. That is the end of another episode.
Can we go eat food now?
I mean, yeah, you can definitely go eat food now. As a matter of fact, I think I might have some ice cream. But if you would like to, and we would love it if you would, please follow us on social media. We are at Timwy Podcast, TMWY Podcast, on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
You can also email us at timwepodcast@gmail.com. Send us your travel food tips, favorite meals that you have had while traveling, restaurant suggestions for anywhere in the world. We'll take it.
Yep, absolutely. You can also call us and leave us a voicemail if you would like to tell me a vegetable dish that you think I would actually like because it's not bitter and disgusting. You can do that and maybe we'll even play it on the air. You can call us at 406-763-8699. Another way to remember it would be 406-POD-TIMWY. We would also really appreciate if you would rate and review us on whatever you're using to listen to this podcast. That helps spread the word and make it more likely that it will pop up when people are looking for travel podcasts. So we would really appreciate that. If you would be willing, we'd also love you to share about this episode on your social media and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode.
As always, thank you to Beth Reed Miller for her awesome artwork. You can check out more of her artwork at Beth Is Something. And thank you to Erica Corbin for the use of her song Round the Globe. You can listen to Erica's music wherever music is sold or streamed.
That is going to do it not only for this episode, but for our summer travel tips series. So starting next week, we will be back to having guests on a more regular basis, which we are very excited about, are we not?
I'm so excited to talk to more people and hear more travel stories. Yes.
Yes. But that will have to wait for one more week. So until then, remember to take me with you.
Take me with you.
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and a little love. Oh, the world is out there waiting to